Guest for today is Ambassador James Victor Gbeho, and he is a former diplomat and politician. And let me also say that he is the son of Philip Gbeho, the composer of the national anthem. Hello, sir. Good to have you in your home.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Now tell us, your father, Philip, is actually an icon in this country due to the fact that he composed our national anthem. What other remarkable things do you remember of him?
Well, first of all, he composed our national anthem, and everybody knows that. But those who lived in Ghana at his time will also remember him as an outstanding music teacher. He joined the staff of Achimota School in 1938 and taught music all through his career. Not only that, he was a very interesting personality in the sense that he never forgot where he came from, his village background. He said the fact that he came from a certain ethnic group also influenced everything that he did. Yeah. And then when he came to Achimota, those were the days when the first principal of Achimota College, A.G. Fraser, required all masters to have a very strong grounding in Ghanaian culture. So from the beginning right up to today, in Achimota School, you probably find that students must put on clothes compulsorily on Sundays, you know, and so on.
Which was his initiative.
That's right, and they have to participate in traditional drumming and so on. But now my father was an eminent drummer and dancer, and in his lifetime he also became the chairman of the Ghana Arts Council before independence. In fact, one of the things that we remember him most, right, is arranging the cultural presentation at independence. You know, if you look at some of the film clips of what happened at independence, and when you saw the dancers dancing onto the stadium, and you know, also singing, and it was all arranged by Philip Gbeho.
Your father.
My father.
That's fine. So from his account, how did he get the opportunity to put those words together to form the national anthem?
Now let me clarify one thing. When you talk about the Ghana national anthem, you are talking about the song, yeah? Not necessarily the words.
Okay.
Because when Ghana was about to become independent in 1956, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah asked for a national anthem to be written. Several people wrote, and it went into a process of competition. The final 4 songs were played for a period of about 6 weeks on Ghana Broadcasting Corporation at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and after the news at 6. And then after that, Ghanaians were asked, or the Gold Coasters were asked to vote for whichever song they wanted. And that was when Philip Gbeho's composition won. Now, I'm making the distinction because he composed the national anthem with his own words. But, you know, Ghana was going socialist in a very serious way at the time. And so after it was chosen, some of the leaders of the government felt that there was too much reference to God and so on.
Okay.
It was too Christian. So they had another set of words written. But the music, which is the anthem, is the creation of Philip Gbeho. But the words that we have now
were not the original.
Yes, were not the original ones. Yes.
Original words. So when you look at the time, and of course today, looking at the words in there, of course the words are very solemn, if you ask me. Looking at the time and today, do you think we are living up to the aspirations and hopes of the words in there?
Well, as a country, I think that we are doing our best. The only thing is that we have gone off course somewhat, and that the dreams of our founders, you know, have not been achieved. Perhaps as far as the politics of it is concerned, yes, we have achieved independence for the Gold Coast. Yes, we have helped in fighting apartheid. Yes, we have also taken part in Pan-African efforts till now, and that also is a tradition in our country. But when it comes to running our own economy, you know, and so on, we have fallen very short because of certain happenings that we are not very proud of. The main one being corruption in this country is still a problem, you know. And also the fact that we have gone very religious, which should not be a problem. But it has given a lot of people, a lot of Ghanaians, in my view, the thinking that they can go into Achimota Forest and pray, you know, all night, and everything will be given to them the following day.
Without going to work.
And so the culture of hard work has gone down a bit. But having said all that, let me say that Ghana has been independent for only 70 years, 7 decades. And Ghana is going to live forever. It's going to live for 1,000 years and more. 70 years is nothing. We should work hard in correcting these mistakes and bringing better quality life circumstance to Ghana.
Tell us more. You mentioned corruption and, of course, being over-religious as a people. How can we tackle these two canker?
How can? I think that, first of all, as far as corruption is concerned, the citizen must know that corruption attracts certain consequences. It continues because people are not punished when they are caught being corrupt, you know. And you'll find that in countries that are progressing, if you commit corruption, the judgment is very quick and severe. And so it acts as a deterrent for people. Here, We all know who the corrupt ones are, but nobody has the courage to take action against them.
Why is it so? Why don't we have the courage?
Well, I do not know. I am not going to answer for everybody, you know.
Yes.
But I think that it's part of gentle nature. If I see somebody behaving in my wrongly in my department, and if I tell my aunt that this is what is happening where I am working, and I'm afraid one day it's going to blow up, she will say that, Victor, are you the only one who is in that place? You know, why must you say it? You keep quiet. But they will find out themselves one day. You know, we're very gentle and nice people. We do not like to upset the apple cart.
So what should be the new approach to this problem you've identified?
To become very strict and legal. It should attract very severe consequences, you know. Not only that, that is at the end of it, but from the beginning part of it, there must be stronger education, civic education, in our schools and colleges.
But we have the NCCE, which is mandated to do what you're talking about.
If you talk to NCCE, you know, they are perpetually pecunious. They will tell you that if they had a little more money, they will be able to. But when I was growing up, there was something on the school timetable called civics, in which every child, every boy and girl, had to know the elementary things about the state, about government, about what to do if you live in a community, how you keep the community clean, how you cooperate with the chief of the area in order. Those are the things that went out of the curriculum of our schools to our detriment. I am one of those who would like to see them restored.
Let's look at the religious angle. What should be the solution to the problem?
Well, I think that government itself should, part of the civics, try to let people know that yes, you can be religious, yes, you believe in God, but you must also believe in right over wrong, you know, and that people should apply a little more common sense to the church activities that they belong to than they are doing at the moment. If you see a pastor who would let a woman lie down on the floor and use his leg to rub her stomach, in a sense, that is not a pastor to go to, you know. And I would like, therefore, to see government introduce certain guidelines for the behavior of leaders of religious bodies, and you know, especially the newfangled ones, the charismatic, and so on. They need a lot of education themselves. If not, they should give way to the traditional ones.
So would you support a bill to regulate churches in the country?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the countries doing well in Africa today, for example, Rwanda, are those that have tackled that problem realistically. They asked the religious bodies to re-register and commit themselves to certain behavioral standards. In fact, in Rwanda, all of them have been abolished, you know, and that is going a bit too far. And also there are some religions that we've lived with for over 1,000 years. They have never caused that kind of problem. It's the newfangled ones which are using modern commercial techniques to make money through religion, which are the problem in this country. And Ghanaians must wake up tutors.
Let's talk more about your father and, of course, your childhood. During the time your father composed the national anthem, were you born?
Oh, yes. I was even in the university.
Wow.
You know,
You were old then.
Yes,
so you saw what
my
happened at the time.
first year in the university. And I had also studied music to advanced level.
So
DCE.
You sing, play instruments?
I play the piano.
Okay.
And you know, so I knew all about it. And what is more, when he was writing it, he often consulted me.
Wow.
I was someone close to him who knew what he was doing.
You're watching Legends of Our Time on GBC News. My guest today is Ambassador James Victor Gbeho. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more. Please don't go away. Still watching Legends of Our Time on GBC News. My name is GIFTY, ADJEI, and my guest for today is Ambassador James Victor Gbeho. Excellency, now let's zoom in into your early childhood. Briefly, I know you're from Keta, but what's the name of your village?
Voja.
Voja.
V-O-D-Z-A. Yes.
Now, tell us about your siblings and the kind of family you came from.
Well, by today's standards, I came from a large family. But when my father left Achimota at the end of 1929, he settled in TITI again and resumed teaching at the Catholic Mission School and was also the music master there. Then he got married to my mother, who was called Louise. I say was called because she's no longer alive. She died during the first decade of their marriage.
Oh, that's sad.
But before she died, she had 4 of us. For my father, 2 died even because before I became conscious of my surroundings. And so the 2 of us boys were those who survived. For another 10 years before my father got married again, this time to a lady from Cape Coast.
Wow.
So I have Cape Coast roots also.
Okay.
And in that marriage, he had 5 children, all of whom survived.
Survived. So 7 in all.
Yes, but today there are only 3 of us left.
Okay.
Me and another brother, Peter, and my sister, Teresa, Mrs. Tete, who is also a musician.
Share with us some memories.
Life in those days was not easy. We are now talking about Ghana in the mid-1930s. A lot of what we know today in medicine was not available there. When I was born, they hadn't even discovered Kwashiorkor. You know. It was later on that the research at the Children's Hospital here in Accra revealed that there was something called Kwashiorkor,
which is commonly malnutrition.
That's right. Then also the common diseases, malaria, and you know.
So during your time, there was no malaria?
There was a lot of it.
Okay.
There was malaria, but the antidote to it was not.
No anti-malaria?
There were, but A, they were expensive. Secondly, they were not found everywhere. But later on, the colonial government started importing quinine in barrels. They came here before distribution and so on. And then some of the childhood diseases, in the 1930s, not all of them were known to medicine in Ghana.
Wow.
And so you will find that until about the 1940s, families tended to be big because you were not sure
if
how many would live or how many would survive, yes. And by the time they become 15, you know, and adults, the number usually whittled down. So that is the circumstance in which I was born and grew up. But I didn't spend all the lifetime in Kita or the village. My father, as I told you, in 1938, was invited by Achimota to join the staff of Achimota school at that time. And he came. So we moved into Achimota. I grew up in Achimota. I went to kindergarten in Achimota. I went to lower primary and, you know, and the secondary school. So part of my growing up was here in Accra.
So from what you've said, during those days, how did you, there were no computers, there were no computers, no internet, televisions. How did you entertain yourselves?
Well, as I said a little earlier on, this is why there was pressure on us to study music and so on and be able to play at home and then of course soon after the 40s, nightlife came to Accra. A few nightclubs were opened, drinking places and so on. Even if they were palm wine bars, people went there to be entertained and so on. And by the 50s, I was in secondary school. You know,
at Achimota.
At Achimota, and then I finally left Legon in 1959. You know, and joined the Foreign Service. And I've been attached to that until recently.
Tell us more. At what point did you decide to go into the Foreign Service?
Okay, it's an interesting story in the sense that we all went to university free of cost. Kwame Nkrumah made tertiary education completely free for all students in the Gold Coast in those days. And the only bond that you signed was that when you finished, you would work for Ghana government for at least 5 years, you know. So we were all bound by that. But then towards the end of your school, your college years, the final year, the government sent, you know, forms to us to fill, in which you had to indicate the first two choices that you would like to. Because some wanted to become accountants, some wanted to. So you indicated which service you wanted to join. Curiously enough, my first choice was information service.
Wow.
Because while I was at the university, I had the opportunity of doing holiday jobs at information service. So I chose that. Foreign service was my second choice. Now, when the time came, I went to an interview, and because I had worked in information service, it was difficult. I sailed through.
Very eloquent gentleman.
But about 6 weeks into my starting work at the information service, I got a letter from the Public Services Commission that I should go back to for an interview for the Foreign Service. And so I went. Again, I passed. So I was asked to transfer from the Ministry of Information to the Foreign Service. And at first, I wasn't too happy, but
today
I
it has paid off. Yeah. That's fine. So, were you a member of the G10, or you were after them?
After them.
You were after them.
Yes, I joined the Foreign Service 2 years after independence. Oh. Now, the very first stream of Foreign Service officers were people who had already finished university and who were working in the civil service, either as district commissioners and so on. And the new government, as you know, from 1951, Ghana achieved a self-government status with Kwame Nkrumah as Prime Minister, and so he arranged with the British government, and they were taken abroad and trained. They all first went to the university again in Britain. They didn't trust the Gold Coast, so they sent them to university again. Of course, they all passed and were trained, Then the second year, they started selecting people from the country, who did not go abroad. So it was a third stream of people that I belonged to. We were trained locally. Now, even though we were trained locally, there were a lot of opportunities to go to for training in the foreign service schools of many countries and so on. So we were given training both on the job and off the job.
So when you were employed, what kind of brief, of course you met Kwame Nkrumah, you worked under him. Yes. What kind of brief did he give you?
Well, at that time, foreign policy was a very important item on the agenda of Kwame Nkrumah, but both before he became president and after he became president. He wanted freedom for the Gold Coast and all other colonies, He wanted to set up a viable economy for the for this country, and also he wanted to project the African personality, that Africans must have respect of all others on the international scene. Now, this kind of influence came from the fact that Nkrumah studied in the United States, studied abroad, and those were the years of tremendous discrimination against blacks. America was still very racist and so on. And so this gave him the idea to fight for freedom. And not only to fight for freedom, but to prove to everybody else that whatever the whites could do, we could also do. And so it didn't even need any teaching. If you joined the Foreign Service, automatically you knew that you would be required to be active in foreign policy formulation and implementation. And so the most senior of ours, like Asante and others,
Ambassador Deborah,
that's right, they were a part of the formulation process of foreign policy, and at our level we were implementers
of those policies.
And in those days, perhaps more than now, the Foreign Service responsibilities were very clear and also were very obvious to Foreign Service officers than they are today. Wow. Because Kwame Nkrumah was very clear in his priorities. It had to be self-government now. And after that, then he added the Pan-African responsibility that, you know, that independence for Ghana alone would not be enough until the whole of Africa became free. And then also, he never forgot about the diaspora, where a lot of his friends came from. You know, some of them came with him to start administration in Ghana, and people like George Padmore, Du Bois, and so on. So in those days, getting to know the essential ingredients of foreign policy was easier than it is today.
That's fine. Now let's shift from your work at the Foreign Service and look at what you did at the ECOWAS Parliament. Share with us.
Well, I went to work for ECOWAS twice. The first one was in 1995-96, when I became the representative of the chairman of ECOWAS in war-torn Liberia. And there we set up an office for the chairman, because in the search for peace for Liberia, it was clear to the Ghana government, especially President Rawlings, that all the talks that were being held in Ghana, Kosombo, Accra, and so on, didn't see the light of day when the Liberians returned to their country. They almost forgot about all by the time, and then went back to their factions and the horrendous acts that were being committed at the time. And so the Ghana government decided that since the ECOWAS was very happy with the chairmanship of President Rawlings, he was elected for another year of chairmanship of this. And he decided to set up an office in Liberia specifically to see to the implementation of decisions that had been taken by the factions in their talks in Accra or elsewhere. Now, he did that because Liberia, war-torn Liberia, was also under the thumb of Charles Taylor, who was a very strong leader and who had a lot of support and money. And so he had a vested interest in brushing all aside and running Liberia the way that he thought he and his party, the NPFL, would. So I had an office in Liberia for a year, working for the chairman of ECOWAS. That was my first one. But the second one was in 2010 to 2012, when I became the president of the ECOWAS Commission. Now, ECOWAS, when it was set up, had a secretariat. After 10 years and so on, the structure of ECOWAS was amended, and the secretariat now became a commission with a head who was also of the rank of a head of state. The first person who served in this capacity, if you recall, was Dr. Chambers of Ghana, you know. But at the end of 2010, he informed the Ghana government that he was getting a new job in Belgium, and so would no longer be available for this. Now that is when the Ghana government put me up as a replacement. Now it wasn't automatic. Again, we went through the heads of state considering my credentials and so on, and fortunately they agreed that I should.
So what will be one key project that you see came out of your leadership?
Well,
as the president?
In the ECOWAS, we were trying to change the direction. You know, up to that point, heads of state were going to meetings and, you know, formulating policies for themselves on how to govern their countries. But at that point, and this is something that I worked very hard on, is to make ECOWAS people-centered, that it was going to be an organization for West Africans, you know, the people of West Africa, rather than the leaders of West Africa. And it was not easy, but we worked on it. Unfortunately, a lot of my time was also taken in peace building, because ECOWAS had by then become involved in a lot of trouble. At the time that I went in, the president of Niger, who had been the chairman of ECOWAS, had been toppled, and there was trouble a lot in it. So we spent time going to Niger, talking to leaders, helping them to formulate new policies and set up new civilian organizations that could bring the country back to. The second country that was in serious trouble and which took a lot of my time was Côte d'Ivoire. If you remember, President Gbeho held elections and was defeated, and he refused to accept the outcome, you know, in spite of all the representations made to it by ECOWAS and other organizations. And Côte d'Ivoire descended into civil war, a form of civil war, and they started shooting at each other and so on. So again, we became the organization, the lead organization for restoring peace in in Cote d'Ivoire. So those were my major. I was only president for 2 years.
Okay.
So this is what
your achievements
well,
there.
Thank you.
The program is Legends of Our Time on GBC News. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk more with Ambassador Gbeho. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're still watching Legends of Our Time on GBC 24. My guest for today is Ambassador James Victor Gbeho. Yes. Let's look at your other portfolio. You becoming the Foreign Affairs Minister. Share with us that experience, but briefly.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I became a foreign minister of this country after I had retired from the Ghana Foreign Service. That's right. During the time of my foreign service, the most outstanding posts were, I was first of all ambassador to the European offices of the United Nations in Geneva, and then after that I became the Ghana's permanent representative at the United Nations in New York, you know, and participated in a number of things. In 1986 and 87, I even became the president of the Security Council. Okay. That's the highest body in the UN system. But when I left my post to come back home in 1990 because Ghana had sought the endorsement of the non-aligned countries to hold a ministerial conference here. So I came back and was given the task of preparing the country in 1 year for the holding of that conference, which I became the Secretary General of. And it went successfully. After that, the UN came and borrowed me to become the representative of the Secretary General of the UN in Somalia. You know, I did that for a year also, and when I came back from there, I then was nominated to become the first. I was nominated to become the Deputy Foreign Minister, which I succeeded in. In fact, I went to Parliament for clearance and so on, which went extremely well. In fact, the opposition didn't like the idea that I was joining the Ghana government. This was soon after I had left the Foreign Service, and they would rather I didn't join the other side. So during my interview, one opposition parliamentarian, unfortunately he's no longer alive today, when they went through my CV, said that, oh, Mr. Ambassador, but you are overqualified for this
position.
Yeah. And then, of course, after 6 months, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was still without a substantive head, you know, and everybody started attacking this, including the press. And I remember one day there was the front page of Graphic saying give the job to Gbeho.
And they give it to you.
I don't think that my superiors were very pleased with that. But again, I was nominated and I went back to Parliament for clearance to become the Foreign Minister. And thereby hangs a tale. I did my best for the foreign policy of this country. We were still involved in managing peace in West Africa a lot. We were also playing our part in international diplomacy at the UN, which I took an interest in because for 10 years I was Ghana's permanent representative at the UN. And so things like the struggle against apartheid, some of my considerations, and also in those days, if you remember, and to some extent today, when you become a foreign minister, there was some expectation from your people that you pay attention to them. But the 1992 Constitution allowed a government to appoint a certain number of ministers from outside Parliament. So even though I was not a parliamentarian, I was a minister, you know. And so I didn't have a constituency as such. It was when we lost the elections in 2001, which sent us out of the office, that I became a parliamentarian.
And a one-term politician. Why? What happened?
Well, I'm not quite sure what happened, but to tell you the truth, I didn't enjoy being
a parliamentarian.
A parliamentarian. Now, I had spent a lot of time during my career as a Foreign Service officer in multilateral diplomacy, sitting in conferences, approving projects and so on. But when I came to local politics and I walked into the Ghana Parliament, it was a different kettle of fish. At the UN, there was a lot of respect for each other. Everybody, you know, if you got up to make a statement, everybody would keep quiet and listen to you. And if there's something that you felt you should respond to when another person spoke, you were given the right, what they call the right of reply, to make a statement and so on. Not in this. They were shouting, sit down, and this sort of thing. And I was already 60, and I didn't enjoy.
You needed the peace.
So I didn't work too hard on going back to Parliament.
That's fine. Now, tell us a bit about your nuclear family. Who is that lucky woman, children, grandchildren? Tell us more.
Oh, yes. I have a family who now consists of adults. All my children are adults. All of them are married.
How many of them? How many children?
Yes, I have 4 children.
Okay.
You know, 3 boys and 1 girl.
1 woman.
Yes.
3 men. Ambassador, we are wrapping up, but are there lessons you'd want to share with us, especially the youth?
Well, I think that as a Foreign Service officer and also as a senior Ghanaian, what I would say to the younger generation today is that there is a need to change course in this country. there is a need to realize that we were in the front row of political independence to this country. We have gone back a lot now. But if we got our act together, we can become one of the leaders of Africa and the world, just as we achieved under Nkrumah through husbanding our resources very well and also learning to run our country properly.
So how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I think that I would wish to be remembered as an officer, a Ghanaian diplomat who worked very hard on Ghana's foreign policy, particularly the implementation of it at the international level.
Briefly, what makes you happy as a person?
Well, I think that this is a question that has been thrown to me quite often. What makes Victor Gbeho tick and so on? I believe in moderation in everything you do in life. You know, I'm not an extremist. I take care of myself on quite a serious basis, but I do not overdo it. I'm a religious person. I'm a Catholic.
Okay.
And I not only a church-going Catholic, but somebody who participates in the activities of the Catholic Church. And I've done this all my life. Not only that, I am fortunate to have been born into a family of an organist. My early recollections of the church is from the organ loft. When I, as a child, I accompanied my father to play in churches, you know, and I do hope that this will be the fate of many other younger people in Ghana tomorrow.
Ambassador, thank you so much for having us in your home. Indeed, you are a true legend, and we are so proud of you. We say, Ayuko, Excellency. Thank you so much. And this has been your program, Legends of Our Time, on GBC News. My name is GIFTY ADJEI, and my guest today has been Ambassador James Victor Gbeho, a former diplomat and a politician. Thank you so much for watching. We'll come your way same time, God willing, next week. Bye for now.